I guess that's kind of how I was during Corona. Spent 18 months, no going outside, no family, no holidays, no gym, no food, no sit in my house as much as I can. Food is delivered. Wash the food when it get here. Don't talk to anybody. Mask up. We'd like go if because you live in the real world, right? I'd have to go out, long sleeves, fucking gloves. I'd come in. We had a decontamination procedure that was identical to what you would do for nursing or a doctor for infectious diseases. We took it very seriously, and we didn't get COVID.
I still have not got COVID either. I mean, I was the exact same as you. We isolated big time there. So we'd been super shielding since like last February. I'm only now, like yesterday was the first day I went into town and sat in a restaurant. Like
Probably felt really overwhelming.
Yeah. No, I'm a hypochondriac.
You vaxxed up? You got your vax?
No, not yet. I have got nothing right now. It's starting to open up now for our age range in certain areas, but we were like you exactly. We started to kind of like chill out a little bit, but like on the outside I chilled out, but on the inside I'm still the exact same. Like
it was so bad as the same here. It didn't get better. It got worse with time. Yeah. We've been vaxxed for about 2 or 3 months now, and I'm just now starting to feel more normal around people and not mask up and don't touch me. It took a really long time to kind of get back into the swing of things, but maybe you'll get more vaxes because America's pretty much done. We're at like 42% vaccinated, and the other 60% doesn't really seem to want it. So that's how I got my vaccine early. Because for a lot of reasons, politicians were afraid that the big cities would get all the vaccines and country folks would be screwed, right? So they worked really hard to make sure there was actually a disproportionate amount for small towns and country people as political bargaining. But it turns out for political and educational and sociological reasons, rural residents did not want or trust the vaccines. So people in the cities that wanted it couldn't get it, and people out in the country had so much it was going to waste. And I found a small town about 2.5 hours away from me that had so much it was going to waste, and they were taking people from out of town, so we just made the 5-hour over and back to get our vax.
There's a little pharmacy downtown from us who are starting to open up and doing that for our little town, so that's good. I mean, I'm very pro vaccine. I just want it. I need it for multiple reasons. I haven't had
I'm in the same boat.
Yeah.
I can't. I was like going crazy. People were like, well, what if it's poison? What about this and that? And I'm like, I've been sitting in my house for 18 months. I guess prison would be the wrong analogy. I feel like Martha Stewart on house arrest, like a very, very nice jail, but I'm still not free, right?
Yeah.
Jail with Uber Eats.
Here's the thing with that. The thing with that is,
fun.
Right? Like in prison, you know there's no way out. Like you physically cannot leave, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to accept that, okay? And correct me if I'm wrong, but with COVID, and like they very much went in certain places where it's like lockdown for sure. We've been in that for like a year at this point. You can physically leave your house. You just can't leave your house. And that, mentally, for me at least, is a bit more harder to come around.
That is exactly what my wife and I went through. So we're in Texas, which is a little bit more yeehaw than where you're at. So like in the height of COVID, like where people are dropping like 3,000 a day. I have a neighbor who holds a 40-person barbecue, invites his entire family, including his elderly parents, and then comes over and invites me to come. And it's like, don't believe that. COVID's not real. It's just imaginary. Just come hang out. And they're just like 8-hour party right next door. Yeah. And tons of friends and family and people, restaurants open. Like, it is like COVID, don't care. Living their best life. And I'm sitting here like suffering immeasurably in isolation, thinking I'm doing the good thing. I'm not going to be part of this disease chain. I'm not going to vector to other people. I'm going to keep me and my wife safe. And then everybody's out there like YOLO party, and some of them don't even get sick. They just get lucky, and it just reaffirms their belief that viruses aren't real or whatever the hell it is that they're believing.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like you were saying about your neighbors and stuff, it's the exact same thing here. And like, it's hard because like, you know yourself, you're doing the right thing. It doesn't appeal to you to do that. You just feel uncomfortable. It's so close to you. You know,
That's not stupid. You're suffering. Like, surely Netflix doesn't hit the same as it used to. Like, there's a limit to how much you can do in your house before you start going stir crazy.
Yeah.
And you're suffering not just for yourself, but also for the benefit of others. If you get COVID, you're not going to die. But if you get COVID and YOLO your life, you might kill 5 old people and not even know it. So it's a heavy price to pay with an invisible reward.
That's one of the most truest things I've heard anyone talk about, and the most relatable shit. That's really true.
I didn't do Christmas, Thanksgiving, 4th of July. Birthday was me and my wife, so I guess that's 2 people, but like not really any of these holidays.
Yeah.
family, friends, even if they wouldn't use the exact words, the tone was basically, well, you're being an asshole about this. And I'm like, no, we're in the middle of a global pandemic. There's like 3 million dead people. All hell's breaking loose. I can skip a holiday. I would encourage, but this would happen. I tell somebody like, I would encourage you to do the same. Like, I know holidays are important, but you can miss a Christmas for the sake of maybe one of your family members dying. And they looked at me like I just like spit in their grandma's face.
Oh my
Like,
god, dude, shame.
so, for example, my dad was kind of the same way. Oh, you should come visit. You should do this. COVID's not real. It's a Democrat hoax. It was invented for this election, blah, blah, blah. China did something. And I'm like, no, 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 mask, no, social distance. And then the very moment vaccines open up for old people, guess who was first in line? It's so weird. It's been very, very frustrating. You have no idea how many subscribers I have burned through on my channel trying to preach some degree of safety and social distancing. It makes me feel like I'm the alien and I'm the odd one out because I care.
Oh my
And
fucking god,
it
yes.
highlights. Okay, do you not feel completely alone because you look around you and you see that the vast majority of people are not willing to do the slightest inconveniences for the benefit of all? Like, one of the reasons that COVID has lasted as long as it did is because basically nobody took this seriously at all. And even when like family members were dying, nobody was like, I have friends that work in the medical field here in Dallas, okay? They've had patients die of COVID-19, exasperate, lungs fail right there. The family comes in pissed off, yelling at the hospital because the death certificate says COVID-19 and that's not real. Put their real cause of death on there. Like, it's really hard to live in a society where that's not an extreme thing that you hear about on Reddit, but it's unfortunately like not uncommon. It's like
Yeah.
a big portion of people, and it drives me crazy, and it makes me after a while like for people to say, oh well, I'm risking myself, I'm not risking anybody else, and I'll be like, but disease vectoring, that's not how that disease vectoring works. And eventually you start like, are you an alien? Are you thinking differently than everybody else? Do you have a completely different emotional spectrum capacity, or am I actually stupid? Have I really swallowed the blue pill and am I a moron? And is everybody else actually doing the right thing? I've thrown my pen across the room, and it starts making me feel like I'm the crazy person here.
It's rough because like you understand the torment and grief and the aloneness and the like the isolation to it, but some people haven't went through that, and they've been lucky that they've been still living and meeting people and not getting it, or it's not been bad and they don't believe it. And sometimes it's the whole not believing it. I'm like, I wish at some point I was like that in some weird way, so I can just feel a little.
Yeah, maybe you could enjoy life and be lucky and not get it. But what that does is reinforce completely factually incorrect beliefs, so that when the next pandemic happens, I know this is conspiracy because Bill Gates said the same thing, like they're planning it, but inevitably another pandemic will happen. Next year, 200 years from now, something. It just reinforces these bad beliefs, and the next one will be worse because the same people like, well, COVID was nothing, this will be nothing. And then all of a sudden they got blood coming out of their eyes or whatever, Ebola or whatever's spreading around. It can be really bad. And can I offer some advice on how to get through the last tail end of this?
Of course.
So it's a little bit of what we talked about before stream. I went through a really extreme set of harassment during the COVID-19 pandemic, pretty much all of it, ranging from swatting to identity theft to 2 different armed individuals coming to my house that I managed to deal with without killing anybody, thankfully. So during COVID, I was completely isolated in my house alone, 24/7, reading scary news from around the world. And my only interactions with the outside world were police and people that wanted me dead. And that was it. And it was awful. And I think the only thing that got me through that time is that I realized that I needed to get through this for the people that I loved. That if I didn't go through this, then I don't know what would happen to my wife or my brother, my father, my mother, my extended family. That I have people that rely on me, not just for, whatever little YouTube money, but also rely on me for a part of their essential social support network. They need me to be me. And I decided very early on that I was going to be the best version of myself, get through COVID, make sure nobody gets sick, and make sure all these little dildos go to jail. And that was my motive. It was almost a negative motivator. It was like lighting a fire under my ass. When COVID started, I could barely walk. I was so screwed up, and I had nothing but time in the house, so I did my own PT exercises to get what I called combat ready in case I needed to. And I just talked to family members day in and day out to try to get them to be more healthy and more safe, like a hard-headed idiot. And I took L after L after L after L after L, but everybody got through on the other side just fine. And it's one of those things that no matter what the price is, I'm going to pay it for the people that I care about.
Of course. I mean, like that's why I've been like continuing to do what I do, continuing to isolate, continuing to be very careful. And no matter what I do from the outside world, I wash my hands. Bro, you should have seen my hands at the very start, man. Like it's so scuffed.
All red and rashy.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and I've never slowed down just simply because it's not just me to think about. And I think that that's why what a lot of people lack is self-care and care for others. I think that's what lets them down 100%.